What up, players? It's Warboss Tay up in this mud. Today we're going to take a look at the Uniforms and Heraldry book of the High Elves by Games Workshop. This is the third in a series of books that take a look at the different color schemes and creative motifs that you can put into your High Elf army. The other two books in the series so far are Empire and Skaven. I hope they continue to do these books because I really like them. So, at the beginning of the book, you've got a unit, or an original illustration artwork of an army of High Elves marching off gloriously to war. And at the back of the book, you've got the survivors limping back home. I think that's really cool, and I hope they keep that for all their books. So, on the next page, you have a really broad overview of the High Elves as a society, and it talks a little bit about the units from each kingdom that kingdom is known to specialize in, as well as a little bit of fluff about the Dark Elves and their feud with them, and a really cool piece about how when there's some fleeting moments of peace in Ulthuan, the nobles like to have these political intrigues and at court, I guess, to kind of better their standing as nobles. I think that's pretty cool, and that's something that nobody really touches on, is that the High Elves aren't always either at war or just kind of riding around in their chariots and horses, how they have some political maneuvering. I think that's pretty cool. I hope they expand on that more. Here's a really awesome map of Ulthuan, and it's nice in color. Let me see if I can focus it a bit. There we go. With labels on all of the cities, fortresses, and shrines you can find in Ulthuan. And down here at the bottom, you've got some fantastic examples of beautifully done shields. And unfortunately, with Games Workshop, they had their artists come up with these really cool individual designs for all these different shields. And as a new painter or a new collector in the hobby, I can totally see a High Elf player saying, "Oh my gosh, this looks so cool, a phoenix rising from the ashes. I want to have my whole unit of 40 spearmen have shields that look like that." Well, that's not going to be possible because Games Workshop doesn't have transfers that are this elaborate, and this is only for, I guess, expert painters who want to freehand their way through, 50 or 60 shields. Whew. Good luck. Elven runes. You've got these 3 pages of Elven runes here, what they mean, what they're called, and these can be used to decorate like shields as well as banners and pennants, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the rest of the book is mainly broken down into this kind of kingdom by kingdom sections, and these sections are really great because it tells you the name of the kingdom, gives you an example of their battle standard, what that might look like, and then it gives you examples of different colors for different units, like a spearman, silver helm, stuff like that. So it also tells you what colors you would use, like reds and yellows, and it also tells you what some recurring motifs are, like what that kingdom is known to venerate. So for this one, it would be the phoenix rising from the waves, because there's this cool little bit here that says that they believe the creator god rose from the oceans to create Ulthuan. So that's pretty cool. What else? All these little italicized paragraphs on the sides are also really cool to give you, or really cool in that they give you information that you might, that might spark some of your own creativity. Like it says over here that the silver helms bear lances carved from the trees of the eternal grove, and it has endured since the time of Inarian, and the weapons carried from its trees will never break in battle. It's pretty cool. Lothern is next. You've got the great sea dragon Amanar in most of the shields and banners. Now, the Lothern Sea Guard also have these new sky chariot things, and I didn't know this, but Lothern Sea Guard are the ones that crew all of the Eagle Claw boat throwers. So any Eagle Claw boat thrower, no matter what kingdom you're from, sorry about that, no matter what kingdom you're from, they're crewed by Lothern Sea Guard, and it's kind of like they're on loan to that army from the kingdom of Lothern. I think that's pretty cool. I gotta stop saying the word cool. I think that's pretty interesting. You've also got a little bit of some Phoenix Guard here, and white lions. And then one thing that I appreciate from these books is that they create original units, regiments of renown. And these are basically original artwork with a paragraph and a name of that unit and what they're known for. And what I see this as is just like a springboard for creative people out there who have their own armies to say, you know what, I'm always fighting my friend at the local club who plays Dark Elves. And this unit of Sea Guard does particularly well in each game. So just to keep your interest and keep you motivated, you might give that unit a name and give it a history. Like this one says that they're so well known for raiding black arcs of the Dark Elves that this one particular Dark Elf captain placed a bounty on each of their heads and says, if you find these guys, I'll give you all these slaves for their deaths. I think that's really cool. Interesting. Next, Tiranoc. I gotta learn to speak well. Tiranoc is, in my mind, the equivalent of the Eldar, just because their colors they remind me so much of the Dire Avengers, the blue and yellow. Tiranoc is known for their chariots. It's funny because it says that in Tiranoc, nobles are known for their chariots, and if you don't have a chariot, if you have to ride a horse, like a silver helm, then people feel bad for you because it means that your family can't afford to keep a chariot anymore. Crazy. The colors, like I said, are blue and yellow, and their symbol is the hawk, or other birds of prey. So it gives you examples of shields, pennants, flags, and different variations on color schemes for them, which I appreciate. The thing that I don't appreciate is that it doesn't give you any hints on what colors to paint them. It doesn't say, okay, to get this look for your model, you'll need these colors for the sleeves, for the robes, for the bow, for the blah, 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 blah. It just kind of gives you a picture and says, okay, now go and do that. And that's kind of my big gripe with these books overall. Nagarythe. If I was to have a high elf army, Nagarythe would be the nation or the kingdom I would choose. Their symbol is the raven of the goddess Morai Heg, and their symbol that they have recurring is the crescent moon. And the reason for that is because it symbolizes the goddess Lilith, who they kind of pray to in order to be forgiven for all of the sins they commit in their lifetime. And the history behind Nagarythe is that they are the kingdom from which Malekith, the king of the Dark Elves, first originated. So when he started his civil war and the Dark Elves broke away from the High Elves, Nagarythe was the kingdom that he started his civil war from. So all of the families that sided with Malekith, their descendants, the ones that hadn't gone with Malekith when he broke away from Ulthuan, their descendants now are the ones that live in Nagarythe. So you've got High Elves here that are the descendants of those families, and they're trying to make up for all of the shame. So they will go out and find every last Dark Elf they can and just slaughter them mercilessly, and they will ruthlessly hunt after these Dark Elves. So they are known from other kingdoms as being very, very, let's see what the words are. They remain a secretive and ruthless sort, little trusted elsewhere in Ulthuan for their kinship with the traitors of ages past. And I think that's really cool. They are on a lifelong quest for just vengeance, and they and I think that's really cool, and it's so much better, to me, more interesting than the normal standard blue and white, very clean, very glorious and noble, golden hair flowing in the wind, High Elves that Games Workshop tries to promote. So you've got some examples of shields and another regiment of renown for the new Shadow Warriors. Chrace are red. Their colors are red, white, cream, and they're known for being a kingdom that's full of forests and have white lions, these great giant lions. And in order to become a white lion or one of the Phoenix King's bodyguard, you have to personally slay one of these mighty beasts and take their pelt. I think it's really cool, and I really like this this kingdom, the red and the whites are different from usual high elf color scheme, which is white and blue. What? Aslan? He looks like what's that guy from Never-Ending Story? The flying, the wish dragon? Atreyu! That's what he kind of reminds me of. What? The rising sun. What? Matt Ward is so crazy. All right, Cothique is a kind of kingdom that's known for its, I guess, pirates. I know you want to call them pirates. They prefer raiding. So, the thrill of raiding to the more conventional battles persecuted by other realms, a predilection that has seen them branded as pirates in some foreign lands. So they prefer being on the ocean, and this little bit talks about how the Silverhelms are really good because they control their horses on the decks of the boats. They still ride their horses even on the decks of boats. So all their shields are decorated with, I guess, motifs of mine, motifs of like sea creatures. And is that a seahorse? Matt Ward, what are you doing? So I'm just going to quickly go through the rest of them. I can see we're running kind of long here. Ivres. More examples here. This is what I was talking about, the standard blue and white. Eagle Gate. Then you've got these 5 gates that, this is really interesting if you're thinking of creating an army around. You could theme it as protectors of one of these gates. And these are the gates that lead from the outer kingdoms of Ulthuan to the inner kingdoms. And the interesting thing is that they are garrisoned by troops from all across the 10 kingdoms. So you'll have different colored shields, but they will all bear the same symbol, which is their gate symbol. So unicorn gates, no matter what kingdom they're from, they will keep those colors, but they will have the unicorns emblazoned on them, so on and so forth. It's pretty interesting. Dragons. I think that this is obviously a great section, but the dragons don't look like this. The current dragons look like they're jumping off of a rock. So they look more like these, but these look like they were just done in, like MS Paint or something like that, because they just look so plain. This is one of my least favorite pages in the whole book, I have to say. But I can tell that they made it so that you could tell, well, all the dragons are built this way, like leaping off a rock. So you would have to see what color their membranes of their wings are. Calador, the kingdom of dragon princes. Regiment of Renown. Illyrian, where the Reavers come from. Illyrian Reavers. So their motifs are like Pegasus, unicorns, stuff like that. I don't see any unicorns. Pegasus. Fast horses. Averlorn, the kingdom of the Sisters of Averlorn. Saphri, Hoeth. The interesting thing about the gods of the High Elves, right there. So if you want a whole army based on Hoeth, if you have like a big unit of sword masters and you want the others to match the rest of the kingdom, those are that. Pokemon! You've got some Phoenix illustrations here. Again, it would be really helpful if they listed what colors you would need in order to get these kinds of effects, but too bad. Then you've got the Phoenix Guard here, really cool models. And finally, you've got some famous regiments. So these are regiments that are specific to a kingdom and what they're known for. So these are like the regiments of renown that I showed you earlier, but instead of original artwork where they're all in some really cool action-looking diorama pose, these are just color schemes and fluff history. Empire did this really well. They had this one regiment of renown that was from Nordland, and they were all like pirates and buccaneers, and they looked really interesting with all the different conversions that you could do. And there was also another one about that was a unit of militia led by a witch hunter. So the witch hunter had like the hat and the cape, and the paragraph was really interesting, and you saw other guys in the like standing next to him that looked really interesting. These high elves, I feel like you can't really do too much. You can give the unit an interesting thing and give them an interesting paint scheme, but there's no real individuality because high elves are very uniform, which is why it strikes me as odd why they decided to do this book, because they are so uniform that you really just basically change the uniform colors, and that's pretty much all you can do. You don't really see any conversions. They all wear the pointy helmets, and they all kind of look the same. But I guess that's also based on the fact, too, that the kits are so old. The spearman and the archer kits, there's no real room for conversion. Spiky helmet, spiky helmet, spiky helmet. The last thing are these outposts that are all around the world. So they don't live in the old world. They don't live in Ulthuan. They're kind of garrisoned and manned from different points in the entire Warhammer world, and it gives a little bit of history or a little bit of background about each one. And that's it. So as a book as a whole, my grading for it would be a very strong eBay. If you are a high elf player and you are really, really into the fluff and all the iconography, all the symbols, I would say go full price, go to Games Workshop and order it right now. But if you are not, if you're like a casual gamer, which most people are, and especially if you don't have a high elf army, I would just look at a friend's in your local gaming area, see if you could find it on eBay, although that might not happen for a while. And the biggest drawback I can see of all these books, not just this one, but all of them, is that there are no photos. Number one, there are no photos that show you all the different color schemes. And number two, there are no photos of the different shields. You can say these shields look really awesome, but in order to paint them, you have no idea where to start. There's no indication of what colors to use or anything. So lack of photos, lack of paint instructions, lack of any kind of painting guide. There's no even, at the very beginning of the book, what might be helpful for Games Workshop is to just do a step-by-step, kind of like they do in their paint spatter for White Dwarf. Just show us how you would paint a regular tabletop standard high elf in these colors. And I think that would sell a lot more models. So if you can do that, Games Workshop, that would really help. If not, Uniforms and Heraldry of the High Elves, very solid eBay, and total full price if you are a High Elf player and are into the history as much as I am and stories of the game. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you in the next one.